Today's been a long day at the restaurant, especially since Ma has been asking me for more ingredients for her new recipes. I went over to the butcher to ask how much for the sausage links and pork cutlets, and of course, I did not have enough money to get the cutlets. So I went back to the restaurant, and when I got there was a big crowd blocking the entrance. I was surprised since it wasn't lunch hour yet. I went to the back door and asked my dad, who was cooking at the moment, what was going on. He said, "Don't know, there'd been a lot of noise going on out there. Your mom and brother have been trying to calm it down, but it ain't letting up." So I went out to the counter to see what was going on. When I went out, I saw some people crowding around a specific table, and my brother was trying to get the people and give the customers some space. I went over to Ma and asked what was going on. She said, "More have been coming in by the second, and it's because of this customer that came in a few minutes after you left." "Who's the guy?" I asked, "and what's his deal with bringing this huge mob?" "Don't know, dear, but what I do know is that he asked us to do this big commission for him, so I need you to head back home and bring some pen and paper so they can do the arrangements, and when he wants it to be done." With that said, I headed towards the entrance and went home. The walk home was much calmer than going to the restaurant. When I was heading up the hill, I looked back and realized almost the whole town was heading towards our restaurant. Who was that guy? When I got home, on the floor under the door lies a letter in a stained envelope. I bent over to pick it up. It was from Maggie, my best friend. I could tell because of the seal on the envelope, an eye with a rose in it. I put it in my bag to read it later since Ma asked me to get the pen and paper quickly. When I got back to the restaurant, almost all the crowd had left. I went to the back entrance and handed the pen and paper over to Ma, who was waiting. She said I can go back to the house since it was my day off. When I got back home, I rushed to my room to open the letter. It said, "Dear Anna, I have missed you so much ever since my family left the town. But I know we had to leave for Father's work. I actually wanted to tell you that my older brother is supposed to be heading back over there. He said he needs to go for his new boss since he is his faithful servant. I'm also wondering how your research is going for new herbs and spices for your mother's recipes. If you could you send a drawing of one of the new herbs you discovered? I really miss you, Anna. I wish I could talk to you in person, but we just have to wait for time to come. With love, Maggie." I miss her so much. We used to talk and go on adventures to find new herbs and ingredients all the time before she left. But she did have to go since her father is a businessman. She also mentioned that her brother was coming. My brother would be extremely excited to hear that news, since they were always together. I had the day off and I decided to go and look for more ingredients, but before I did that, I wrote a letter for Maggie and added a drawing of one of my new herbs with a description of what it is. I put my seal in the envelope, a pen with leaves surrounding it, and placed it in my bag to give it to the post office. I put on my boots and jacket and headed off into town. I went directly to the post office and gave my letter to the postman. They already knew who to send it to for how often I give them letters to Maggie. And after that, I went to a bookstore and asked for a journal, a pen, and extra ink. When I went towards the woods right outside of town and started exploring. The woods were chillier than usual since autumn was near. I already explored most of the beginning of the woods, but going in deeper inside is always a lot harder since it gets darker and a lot more colder the further in I get, which is why I decided to come early and bring a lantern with me. At first there isn't much to look at since it's only trees and shrubs, but there are always little new plants to look at that weren't there the day before. I noticed something moving in the bushes. At first, I thought it was a small animal and didn't mind it, but the movement was getting louder and the bushes around that bush were moving more vigorously. I took out my dagger for defense if it was a bear or a band of robbers. Nothing was coming out, but the bushes were still moving. I got closer to see what was there to see if it was stuck or not. Now it's just about a foot away, a rabbit came hopping out. With a sigh of relief, I thought of how silly it was that a person other than me would be out here. When I thought that, a boy suddenly popped out of the bush and looked at me. "Ah!" I yelled, falling back, looking back at the boy. He looked at me with an annoyed look on his face and said, "Can you keep it down? You just woke me up from my nap, and it was a good one too." I looked at his face, and he seemed to me maybe a bit older than me, but not older than my brother. I asked what he was doing here, and he answered, "Sleeping, obviously." And I could ask you the same thing. "Well, I'm here to research on plants and animals to see if they would be good for cooking and for medicine," I replied, trying to get myself together. When I was all tidy up, and he was already standing up in front of me, with an irritated look on his face. "Can I help you?" I asked, looking at him straight in the eyes. "Well, let me see. You interrupted my sleep, you pointed a dagger at me, and now I have to head back to work or my boss will yell at me. So, what do you think?" Now, I was mad, and I stared at him wondering what his problem was, but he just ignored me and headed towards town.